Good day, everyone. I'm Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch President, with our Facebook Live update, our weekly update here on Facebook Live. Thanks for joining us this busy anti-corruption week here at here in Washington, D.C. Judicial Watch, for those of you who don't know, we're a nonprofit educational foundation. And one of the ways we educate the American people is by finding out what the government's up to and telling them about it. And where our focus is on ferreting out and trying to stop government corruption. And certainly we've had some great successes this past week in terms of ferreting out government corruption. We've got new Clinton emails. We filed a new lawsuit about taxpayer money related to George Soros. And we've got some interesting court battles you'll want to hear about, both on election integrity and on the rule of law and immigration. So a lot to talk about. Let's talk about the Hillary Clinton scandal first. She was in the news this week again, blaming the media for her for the inordinate focus on her email practices. I think she compared it; it was covered like Pearl Harbor, as if she were some innocent victim, or that it was blown out of proportion. The fact is that Hillary Clinton, in a really casual, unbelievable way, violated numerous laws related to the handling of classified information, the maintenance of federal records, and just basic laws like you can't take stuff that doesn't belong to you, meaning the government emails she scooted out of the State Department when she left office. And it's Judicial Watch that is still in court, still getting emails related to Hillary Clinton's email practices, and actually still getting her emails. Now, remember, Mrs. Clinton said she turned all the emails over. Well, that turned out not to be the case, because we're still getting emails. And notably, we have 2,000 pages we just released of emails from Yuma Abedin, who had an email account on her server. So a lot of the emails back and forth we're getting because Abedin had the Hillary Clinton emails. And so now we're seeing these emails for the first time, and the American people, namely you, are seeing them for the first time as well. It's just an extraordinary situation. We just released 2,000 pages of emails. So I'll highlight some of the important ones for you, but you need to go online and look at them yourself. There may be things that we missed that you can pick up on. It's all the emails are available at our website at judicialwatch.org, but some of the big ones are, again, Hillary Clinton. We found more instances of classified information on her email server. And not only that, but she was sending and receiving the information to and from the Clinton Foundation. So now you've got the Clinton Foundation getting classified information illegally from Hillary Clinton. Now the Clinton people say it was deemed classified after the fact. That doesn't make a difference. It's classified at the time, whether it's marked or unmarked. She knows better. She was warned about it. She did it anyway. And so we've got a number of documents. We've got 115 Clinton email exchanges that had not been previously known. And some of these, as I said, are classified, and they involve, for instance, sending information to Justin Cooper, who one of the aides to the Clinton family and at the foundation, who helped manage Hillary Clinton's emails, and also her aide, Oscar Flores, who I guess was their personal family assistant, who was also getting material to, quote, print for Bill. And there's also information about the exchange of an email exchange related to a Bangladeshi banker and major Clinton Foundation donor, Muhammad Yunus. Now, I want you to look that name up, Y-U-N-U-S, and you'll see he was involved in a lot of controversy and scandal. And the State Department is accused of threatening the IRS to go after someone who's blowing the whistle on this guy. And we found that there's material in here that show that Mrs. Clinton was at least personally involved and connected to him. So this is something worth looking at. Also, there's some more interesting emails showing that the Mrs. Clinton's daughter, Chelsea, got a free ride to Germany on a government plane to watch a soccer match. And, is there any doubt that's not the appropriate use of resources? And some media picked up on the fact that there's another email showing that I guess they were going to the funeral of Betty Ford, and Michelle Obama, then First Lady, wanted to go for good reason, and Secretary Clinton wanted to go, and there was no objection to them going to the funeral. But Mrs. Clinton insisted on taking separate planes. She didn't want to go on the same plane as Michelle Obama. And as you might imagine, that's caused a bit of a media firestorm. Also, there's a Russia connection here. There's a Russia-America Foundation that was connected up with the State Department. It's run by Clinton operatives. And it's an unusual organization. They get grant money to help relations between Russia and America. They were supportive of the Obama administration's approach to Russia, and you'll see emails about that there. Also, they had a committee draft up, and this is interesting, a doctor's statement as to why Hillary supposedly fainted due to hydration. Remember that back in December of 2012? Causing her supposedly to hit her head and suffer concussion. Now remember, Hillary Clinton said that concussion caused her to forget a lot of what went on maybe in that period. She told the FBI that when she was asked about what she did with documents on her way out. And she said, well, remember I had a concussion, so I may not remember everything. This is, again, pretty devastating material. And I don't know how much more classified information has to come out, or more information that Hillary Clinton didn't tell the truth about turning the emails over, or more information about the pay-to-play before the Justice Department reevaluates, reopens, and reinvigorates any of these Clinton Inc. or Clinton email, Clinton classified and mishandling investigations. This is something that needs to be done. And now we know that, again, the Clinton email scandal shows, the documents there, that the Clinton State Department really was corruption central in the Obama administration. And that's saying a lot. And I just encourage you to look at all of these emails and just ask your leaders here in Washington, why aren't they doing anything? Mrs. Clinton is still a public figure. She's still accountable to the rule of law. And should she get away with everything she did? The Justice Department, I hope, is paying attention as well, and they're not cowed by the establishment, and they should reopen, or if they're still going on, really accelerate these Clinton email and corruption investigations. So a lot to be said there, and we're still pursuing this. We're still getting more documents. We're still in court on numerous cases. For instance, we're still waiting to hear from a federal court as to whether we can depose Mrs. Clinton about her email practices. So these cases aren't going away. Hillary Clinton obviously isn't going away. She's still out there. And our efforts to hold her accountable aren't going to end just because the politicians here in Washington may want to move on. Another big issue, I know a lot of folks are concerned about George Soros. For those of you who've been following us on weekly here on Facebook Live and our internet and Twitter feeds already know we filed a lawsuit to try to get information about why it is the Obama administration and how was funding Soros's operations in the country of Macedonia. Well, we followed up these past few days with a second lawsuit about potential funding of Soros's operations in Albania. And the complaint about George Soros in Albania is the same about the complaints against him in Macedonia, meaning that this money is being used, and they were working with U.S. government officials, the Obama administration, to undermine conservative policies of the governments there. And so we had a letter was sent to the Secretary of State in March of this year by 6 U.S. senators, Senator Lee, Inhofe, Tillis, Cruz, Perdue, and Cassidy, and they called on the Secretary to investigate the connections between his agency, the State Department, the USAID, which is a kind of an agency within the State Department, and the Soros Foundation. Why is money being funneled there? And so we're asking that about the Soros operations in Albania, whether there's any money that's there that goes to it either directly or indirectly, because Soros is an agitator for progressive revolutions in all of these countries, and his particular focus and his particular focus is on the immigration issue. So they want all the refugees to come in. They don't want any border walls. They don't want any fences, and they hate the governments there who are in the middle of these massive refugee flows from the Middle East They hate the fact those governments in Macedonia and Albania and Hungary object to these flows and have taken steps to police their borders. And that's one of the key complaints the Soros groups have. And it's being done with your tax dollars in many cases, or with the help of your government officials. And I suspect it's probably still going on, even though the State Department is run by a different president. So this is what these lawsuits are designed to do. Obviously, to get the information, and the mere filing of the lawsuits help educate people about the problem as well. So I encourage you to share this information widely. Also, we're in court. Again, we're in the Supreme Court. I may have talked about this case before, about election integrity in Ohio. Now, Judicial Watch had sued to clean up the rolls in Ohio. We ended the lawsuit after Ohio changed their policies in a way to make the cleanup more, to actually clean up the rolls, notably by sending at least one letter, I think, annually to people who may not be who they need to hear from, because either haven't voted or haven't heard from in a long time. And of course the left hates that, because that may lead to people being removed. The left wants ineligible voters to be on the rolls so they can use their votes to illegally steal elections. There, I said it. So they challenged it in Ohio, and we've asked the Supreme Court to take this case up, and incredibly the court did. So this is something that's a big deal. The citizens of Ohio may yet have their right to free and clean elections upheld by the Supreme Court. And dirty voting rolls can mean dirty elections. I don't know what's so hard about it. And so we hope the Supreme Court will reverse, because the lower court rulings were not, the Sixth Circuit Court, the appellate court did not rule in favor of Ohio's election integrity efforts. So we're very hopeful the Supreme Court taking up this case means the right to clean up the rolls through just one mailing, among other things, will be upheld. So this is an important case. You know, we can talk about public policy, we can talk about cutting taxes and changing Obamacare and everything, but it's all for naught if our elections are stolen. So we've got to be vigilant on clean elections. The left doesn't like clean elections. That's why they're against voter ID. That's why they're against cleaning up voting rolls. That's why they're against even asking someone whether they're a citizen or not before they register to vote. So this is a big issue, and we're pursuing it in court. And you already know that we're already pressuring a number of states to clean up their voting rolls. And if they don't, we're going to sue. So not only are we defending the great results of our past litigation, but we're prepared to institute other litigation against states where they've got dirty election rolls. And Judicial Watch is the only one doing it in this aggressive, broad way. Also, we're asking the Supreme Court to take a look at another big issue, which is in-state tuition for illegal aliens in California. Yeah, that's right. Illegal aliens in California, certainly in the University of California, can get discount tuition rates simply by being so-called residents of California. And the key issue here, and it was a taxpayer lawsuit we filed on behalf of Earl DeVries, who is our client, is that the University of California Board of Regents can't do that. So this is the trick. Federal law allows it, believe it or not, for in-state tuition for illegal aliens, as long as the state legislature authorizes it. Well, in California, the University of California is run by a Board of Regents, which is independent from the state legislature. So they can't authorize it. So they're trying to get around the law and provide these dubious benefits illegally to illegal aliens. And, you know, these are sanctuary policies writ large at the state level, and it's resulted in $27 million in taxpayer funds for non-resident tuition and financial aid to illegal aliens. That's a lot of money. And this is, as you might imagine, the lower courts in California weren't too friendly to our argument, so we've appealed to the Supreme Court. And look, if our argument is that the decision, and I'll read from our brief, weaken the federal government's powers over national immigration policy, transforming a law that allows 50 state legislatures to participate in immigration decisions into one that could allow 500 or 5,000 state agencies and local governments to participate in these decisions. So this taxpayer lawsuit is up for review before the Supreme Court. And we think that California politicians should follow federal and state law rather than attempt to unlawfully force taxpayers in California, like our client Earl DeVries, to subsidize illegal aliens. And in-state tuition for illegal aliens is just another sanctuary policy. But isn't this an interesting trick here? So this is typical of the left, and you see this not only with sanctuary policies, where you have cities and localities in some states challenging federal immigration law here in an improper, unlawful, and unconstitutional way, but you're even seeing this in the reaction to the president's, what I think is a great decision to pull out of the Paris Climate Accord, whatever you want to call it, which is basically so corrupt I can't even wrap my head around it, and so I'm glad he pulled out of it. So what is the reaction? States and cities run by liberals are going to have their own climate change agreements with foreign countries. So forget about the Constitution. But that's what the left is doing. They think, if they can't control one government and abuse it, they'll control another area of government and abuse it. In this case, cities where liberals reign in many major jurisdictions. And there's nothing wrong with folks with the liberal persuasion winning in elections. That's not the point. The point is everyone's got to follow the law. And politicians, just because you don't like policies, doesn't mean you can break federal and local laws in order to get them done. And so this is something that Judicial Watch is doing nationally, which is challenging these sanctuary city policies. We have a lawsuit in California over the San Francisco sanctuary policy. And of course, we have now the case before, or we're asking the Supreme Court to take up our case that would allow end the legal alien benefit policy of in-state tuition in California, at least in the University of California. We can disagree on policies, but just because you disagree doesn't mean you can break the law. If you don't like the restriction on the benefits for illegal aliens, then get the laws changed. And we can have policy disagreements, but we got to have the rule of law too, because otherwise, that's how the country falls apart. That's how a Republican form of government falls apart. That's what we do. We try to enforce the rule of law through our litigation, and that protects our rights generally, and it protects our constitutional form of government. So I encourage you to follow our work, support our work. You can find more information about us here on our Facebook page and our website at judicialwatch.org. We're all over Twitter and such. So thanks again for joining us, and I'll see you next week.